Hello everyone, this is Lauren Stein over here at Acctivate. I'd like to welcome you to our September webinar. Today we've got Andrew Hagenbach with MBSG presenting some really good information on increasing profit with Acctivate. I'll be fielding questions throughout the webinar, so feel free to enter your questions in the question area. We'll go ahead and get started. Andrew, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, great. Thanks for inviting me to share with everyone today. Before I get started, a little bit about MBSG. I get the privilege of working with a great team here. We specialize in ERP software, IT, and business process improvement, particularly using Acctivate. And as for myself, since the mid-90s, I've been working in the field of accounting, operations management, and IT. And a lot of us either at MBSG either are or were business owners at one time. So we tend to think like owners, and as a result, we're focused on saving our clients money and helping them grow profitably. We're excited about Acctivate, and as you'll see today, it's a great software platform for doing just that. Some common companies, we see a lot of different industries using Acctivate, most commonly probably food manufacturers or distributors, or light manufacturers or food distributors. And I hope to share with you some examples of some common needs that you'll relate to and how they can be addressed using the software to improve the business. Quick overview of what I plan to cover. Business process optimization is pretty much throughout the presentation. I'll walk you through some common processes and show you what's really behind the pains and how that can be turned into profit. And finally, I'll provide some real-life examples on streamlining that we've done for other companies. My hope is that you'll leave here today with some ideas and creativity and problem solving that you can translate into more profit for your company or your clients. We know how profit increases. Anyone with a Accounting 101 would know that. But how does a business scale its growth profitably from dealing with the nagging pains and the issues that are affecting their growth in a profitable way? So, case in point, I know one business that came to me and said, we're growing exponentially. And I said, how are you growing? Well, our customer service team has just added 3 or 4 more people. Well, that kind of growth would fall under maybe not the best kind of growth, because obviously if you're growing your customer service team, that's an expense to the business. So, not all growth can be done profitably, but if you focus on your assets, you can produce more revenue from that. Particularly with Acctivate, we're talking about inventory. So growth and profit starts with the pains. These are signs that your company is not growing as profitably as it could. These pains are like inflammation in the joints, and we'll quickly move from the theoretical to the practical in a minute on how to convert those pains into profit areas. Usually within those pains, there's profit to be found through increased awareness, preventing unnecessary losses from occurring, or just empowering someone with information. It all leads to growth and profit. So some common system questions that we get on the sales side, inventory available, and that comes in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms. These are all activities that involve your assets, taking care of your assets. Remember, the more we take care of our assets, the more revenue is generated, or the faster, more efficient we can sell inventory, the more revenue the company can earn. Also, you want to measure the profit accurately so that the business doesn't get involved in unprofitable transactions. Therefore, you need to balance out the equation on the cost side, accounting for things like inbound freight, product quality issues. A lot of companies are outsourcing their warehouse to third-party warehousing. There's costs associated with that business model, so it's important to capture all those costs and understand how that's affecting profit order by order sometimes, or in other cases just at the customer level, and in other cases maybe just at the warehouse level. So outbound freight, a big issue where a lot of companies are, again, running very lean, maybe not stocking the inventory at their own facility. And so a lot of what they're doing is moving inventory from a warehouse to their customer. So outbound freight becomes something they need to get a handle on and not just have it get stuffed somewhere into the income statement. Discounting and expiring items, these are also things that can add significant cost or reduce margin for the business. And these are all system type issues. I'm going to take an example of a business and look at how and where profit was increased. So as I said before, the devil's in the details. So we're going to step through this process and look at a few things. I'll try to move quickly through it, but as we step through everything, keep in the back of your mind, what's the impact of a delay, from quote to order to invoice to collections, and never discredit how that might impact the business. The first area I want to talk about is purchasing. You enter a PO, and in this particular business, POs would be generated up front, and right away they wanted to see visibility to what could be expiring inventory up front. Now, we haven't received this inventory into stock, but it's already expiring, and we already want to sell it. We would like to sell it even before it hits the warehouse. Once it hits the warehouse, it's got to be received. And, this was another pain area. You see every pain point in this process is highlighted in red. During the receipt of goods, if that process isn't a daily occurrence, then you're missing out on visibility. And if you're missing out on visibility, someone's being impacted by a decision. And so trying to move them to real-time inventory, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, company just bought the inventory, and they have inventory available, but now do our salespersons know about it? Do our customers know about it? If even before the goods are received, does the warehouse manager know to expect the arrival of inventory? Some of these things can add additional cost to the business if there are too many surprises, or if, particularly if customers are uninformed that you have inventory available that they may want to purchase. In this case, a company wanted to make their inventory available to their existing customers to say, look what we have, we've got to move this inventory fast, and their customers in turn also want to move that fast. And so advertising it became a pain because they really couldn't get a handle on what was available. Getting orders into the system, there can always be cost there that can be taken out of the equation through things like EDI, electronic data interchange, where customer POs can be brought and integrated directly into the system, just like e-commerce. And I know there's been some good webinars put on by Acctivate about that. I'm not planning to get into that. I'm going to stick back to the example here. Scheduling pickups and deliveries. Once you have an order in the system, if that's got to be delivered to a customer, there could be significant delays there. In this case, they had to get freight quotes from all the different carriers and then choose one of those and then schedule the shipment. So getting the order delivered to the customer, it's more of an order fulfillment job, can also lead to a lot of delays and unsatisfied customers. Now, then later on, of course, matching up those costs. I'm highlighting here number 6 is really just issuing the freight quotes. A lot of that was handled in Word, and so that became a pain, and talk about how we solved that. Invoicing, again, this is another one of those, has to be same day, and so that can be a pain as well as after the fact you get all of these bills from the carriers who were so nice to help you deliver the product to the customer, and now you have to pay the bills, but how do we charge them and account for them and then see, how do those costs match up with which orders? And then in this one case, this particular owner was working all weekend reconciling inventory just so on Monday he could then again come back to the beginning of the process and inform his customers of what inventory is available. There's a lot of delays and time wasted and cost to the business. In the case of our food distributor, how was the inflammation alleviated? Well, they made expiring goods visible at the level needed. So we took purchase orders and expiration dates on those line items and made it visible in the purchase order. And there's just by using some of the existing fields and then displaying that into reports and views, they could see that. And you see a little arrow going down to the quote for that, which I'll touch on in a minute. Using another tool called Knowledge Sync, we're able to share with their customers and sales reps, this is the inventory we have available. It's time to move it out, and these are the prices. In some cases, it was sales promotions for fast expiring inventory. So this is just a way that could be accomplished and get interested buyers aligned with available inventory. And issuing the quotes, as far as that goes, they sort of took out that process because they felt that, well, really all we're waiting for at this point is we've already extended our quote to them. It's more of an advertisement. Here's our inventory that's available for sale. And so customer orders were able to come right in and move along to the next step. Another area we took out, you see the Word document is now missing because we used freight quotes and captured those into freight purchase orders as a way to match up costs to sales orders. And then scheduling the shipments and pickups and deliveries. Once they got the order in, using Acctivate, using the business alerts feature, it became easy to see which orders needed scheduling, and using another tool could identify which orders were missing freight quotes. A lot of companies need to slow down the process at this step, especially if they're managing customers with net terms. If a customer owes you money and they're over their credit limit, you may need a separate approval step. Acctivate has a great feature for that we use in probably a variety of ways. Generally not the same for any company, but the tools are there to allow for that workflow automation to take it from a scheduled order or a booked order into a scheduled order. So we use some of that to make that better. And overall, matching up the costs back to original orders was huge for these guys, and I'll show you some examples of that. And then invoicing became, instead of a 2 or 3 day process, it became a 1 day process, which is mission critical to getting that back at the beginning of the process, the inventory availability. Up here, if you're going to get expiring inventory available, things have to be received on time and invoiced on time. Otherwise, you don't really get that. I'll show you some examples of profit reports that tie together the cost of freight to the overall order. And then, of course, reconciling inventory and collections became easier. We put the system to use in those ways as well. We have found there are at least 3 ways of using the landed cost feature in Acctivate, and just want to highlight some to you now. One, the point for the overall business operation is that if your costs are not accounted for properly, it severely handicaps your ability to make decisions and manage undesirable, unprofitable situations. So one example in the landed cost of an inbound product, back to our sample food distributor, costs were associated with specific lots. so that specific lot profitability can be tracked. And it's important that, especially if costs are fluctuating, that each deal is paid attention to make sure that each separate deal is profitable. Secondly, you might want to capture the transfer costs. I know one business that has a factory back east, and they ship it from California, a subassembly over there, and then it gets finished off and sent to another warehouse. Well, there's transfers made in between each step, and so they capture landed costs against individual transfers to see, to compare that really with their other business model, which is more in-house manufacturing. Here's another example of, third example down here is where you've got an outside process where you issue a work order to a co-packer. This would be from like a food manufacturer or some type of cosmetics in some cases, and they're handling the final assembly, and then they send you an invoice. And landed costs can be used there as well. So just something to think about. Now, solving outbound freight, as I promised I would go into this, here's an example of what can be done. Using the sales order, you can put in a freight out line item, which you can choose to charge for it or not, put in a price, and you can choose whether to show it on the sales order or not, because again, we have crystal reports, so you can hide fields if you need to. So using the dropship wizard, you take that sales order and create a freight PO, and then from there you've established a direct link to the sales order, and then that means that you can produce a report which shows profit per customer order invoice. It's all tied together. So and then here's an example of the report showing landed cost first, which was the first 2 slides ago I showed you, getting that landed cost in so that it's not just your product cost, but the total inbound cost is present in the order. And then if there was freight out associated, by linking that PO in, you can see this is what the PO will cost me. And no matter if that's just a PO, because a lot of times you deal with timing issues, if you just have the PO and you don't have an invoice from the carrier yet, then you can display the PO invoice date to say, yeah, we've got the invoice, so that is the final figure. Whereas maybe initially it was just a quote, and you never know until you get the final bill what the final amount due was, but that can be captured here as well for the actuals. And then how does it impact your margin overall? You can see that here as well with all the costs and dollars associated, and then you can display profit percent. And this, by the way, this was using the standard customer detail report in Acctivate, and with just some slight modifications. So on that note, typically Acctivate has a solution built into the software for most needs, and it's my approach to always ask the question, can it be done standard in Acctivate? Because remember, the goal is to reduce expenses, not increase them, and not just to customize everything, because that comes with its own costs. So however, most companies I've worked with in the past need some level of customization, and there are really 3 sets of tools that we work with. There's others, but these are tools in the toolkit. You just they're very productive, and there's many good uses for them. Crystal reports, Knowledge Sync, where you can send emails about your data to interested parties, salespersons, customers, internal people, management who's traveling. Again, back to the sample business food distributor. We've got an owner who's always on the go, but likes to pull up on his iPhone and see, a PDF of, what were the orders that were approved today, or what was the total profit figures. And you just see that right there, not even log into the system. So it's kind of nice to have. Now, here's some just more tools that you might not be aware of. Many of you, if you've been on the system a while, you probably are. The ability to drill down. So if you've got a report on invoices, you can drill down to the invoice and get right into the data entry screens. Another tool that's really part of Crystal Reports is doing conditional formatting. This is just a real simple example of, probably an invoice report that shows a freight PO line item here that's still open. We don't have an invoice for it yet. And so it's highlighted in red if it's open. And so just more of a way to make things jump out at you so you're not spending time looking through reports, make them more exception-based. Other tools, just again, within the standard tool set of Acctivate that we found very helpful is just, again, adding a filter, something as simple as that, and saying, what's my quantity available? Greater than 0, and then everything in here shows up with a quantity available. And then, of course, you can export these reports to Excel, maybe reformat the report so that it easily can be exported. Business alerts, I know Ryan has done presentations on this, and I really love this feature of Acctivate. I only highlight it here to say, again, that in most cases, look back to the standard tool set to solve your problems. That is our approach and why we love this feature of Acctivate. I've seen other more expensive systems that don't even have this kind of functionality. Pretty amazing, the ability to see what's on back order, or if something is partially on back order, or if it's ready to be shipped. Just I think any company who's shipping out product probably will find a use for this. If that's not enough for some reason, you can always extend it. Don't give up on Acctivate. You can always pull the data. You've got the SQL database. You've got all the fields of information you need. One company we worked with came up with a single view of their entire order fulfillment cycle, and they just display that in Excel. And they want to see everything from the product, what's in stock, has it been invoiced, what's on PO, if it's on PO and sold, what was the dealer price, what was the manufacturer purchase order, did we sell it, if so, what's their customer PO number, I think is over here, and their order destination. Is it on a ship yet? Yes, it's in transit. And they could just answer all that question from one view. So very powerful. And this again is accomplished just through a direct link from SQL to Excel. Another use of conditional formatting for your loss leaders. So if you've got an order where you've sold some product at a loss, you want to see that it's at a loss and highlight it in red, and then how did it affect the overall profit for the order? Just again, some putting the tools to use for the business. Again, Knowledge Sync is a tool that this is just a quick snapshot of. Not much to show with the tool itself. This is more just a picture of what they call the event manager. It allows you to set, who are you delivering these alerts to and when, and the body of the email, what do you want to show in the email, that kind of thing. You can attach any reports to any Crystal reports, for that matter, in Acctivate can be attached and sent out to any recipient email. There's even some instant messaging and dashboarding features. This is a sample of a report done for one of our clients, advertising to their existing customers what their current deals were. Also a way to cut down on expiring inventory before it's too late. I think this is the case where we set to alert customers every Friday and their best deals for inventory expiring within the next 6 months, something like that. So it's called a sales sheet. So just a quick summary. Just want to, again, these are guidelines for growing your business profitably. Don't underestimate the problem. The cost of a mistake or delay to the bottom line and as well as do not discount the lack of information being made available to improve the decision-making ability of the next person in the line of your procedures. Simplify wherever possible. In many cases, there's redundant steps that need to be eliminated or merged into a single step. As a general rule, all inventory transactions should be posted daily. And if they're not, ask why. I've yet to hear a good reason for not invoicing daily, invoicing customers. So again, these are guiding principles, and extend the information to everyone. Provide exception reporting, below profit warnings, over credit limit, what's available to sell. These are some examples that can have big returns for your company. Assume there's a solution for the pain you have and reach out for help. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions, if you email me, I'll send you a free document just outlining 101 business uses of KnowledgeSync and different alerts and things to spur your creativity. Not that you could use that tool or Crystal or any other tool available to you. The point is to just increase your creativity with problem solving. And at this time, if you want, we can open up for Q&A. Lauren, you there?
Yes, I'm here. If anybody would like to raise their hand to ask a question live here with Andrew, go ahead and feel free to do so, and we can get to your questions. All right, Pete.
Oh, hi, Andrew. This is Pete Bornstein. I just have a question about your initial sales cycle when you are first talking to a prospect. How do you go about comparing what requirements can be resolved in QuickBooks versus what requirements can be solved in Acctivate?
Is this a question more of how yourself in a case of looking for software or?
No, I'm looking for a methodology.
A methodology, okay. Well, I would say most QuickBooks companies that I've talked to about Acctivate sort of pre-qualify themselves because they're already experiencing pain. Particularly, they've tried advanced inventory with QuickBooks. I mean, I've yet to meet one that hasn't tried that first. And they know that the reporting with the advanced inventory is really where it differentiates. For example, the expiring inventory, the lot valuation, even though they do have the lot valuation feature in QuickBooks Advanced Inventory, it's not going to give you any of the reporting that you have with a SQL database like Acctivate. And so it comes down to, generally, like I said, they're pre-qualifying themselves either on that basis or on the basis of their transaction volume, and they're having some pain in QuickBooks with, either, the database size or something like that, and they realize we can't throw this many transactions at QuickBooks. We need to move on. Methodology-wise, I think, we really just try to drill down on the needs in that particular area with, inventory-related transactions and transaction volume and that kind of thing. Sometimes multi-warehouse, again, even though they have some of that reporting in QuickBooks, multi-warehouse becomes another point of differentiation to products. Hope that helps.
It sure does. Thanks.
All right. Do we have anybody else that would like to raise their hand and ask a question? Okay. Well, if we don't have any other questions, then I guess we can go ahead and close this one out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the Increasing Profit with Acctivate with Andrew Hagenbach with MBSG. Like you said, his contact information is up on the screen right now, and we'll also be posting this recording on our webinars page on the help site. So again, thank you for attending and have a great day.
Thank you.